Hello and welcome back to the Mole RP channel. My name is ChaosMole, and in today's Diablo 4 video we want to talk about PvP. What can you expect? How does it work? And then we can talk a little bit about the ifs and whens. Now before we do this, a few things before that. First things first, the gameplay you will see in the background is just some Diablo 4 beta gameplay, because unfortunately, even though it seems like PvP is a very important part for Diablo 4, we didn't get a lot of footage for PvP itself, and in the beta, PvP was not even playable. So unfortunately, I just didn't want it to like replay 2 minutes of PvP over and over again for the whole video. So we just have some normal PvE Diablo 4 beta gameplay. So don't be mad about that, please. Because what we have to talk about here in the video is still very important, regardless of the footage in the background. The second thing is, please consider to like the video and to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video itself. We have many more Diablo videos planned in the foreseeable future. We have also a podcast here, and we have already quite a bit of Diablo 4 content on the channel. So if you were interested in Diablo 4 and later on this year also a little bit of Starfield, you came to the right place. Now with that said, let's jump into Diablo 4 PvP. You know what's interesting to me? Diablo 4 was immediately announced with PvP in mind. I know that some people will say, yeah, I don't care for PvP, meh. But the thing is, the first gameplay trailer Blizzard dropped, there was PvP in it. And then, since then, every single trailer had some, even if it was just a short moment of PvP in it. And so that tells me, at least, that for Blizzard, PvP wasn't a second thought. It was actually important to them, and they wanted to make sure that they are showcasing it early enough to tell the people, look at this. We thought about PvP, we want to implement it, and it will be there from day one. Why is that important? Because, well, they didn't do that for Diablo 3, and we didn't really have like a real PvP system since ever. Like even Diablo 2, the PvP was just kill each other for years and a little bit of gold and have some fun with it. But that was about it, right? And now they're actually back with this whole PvP system, and it seems like it's an important part of their strategy for Diablo 4. But what is a little bit weird is, even though it seems to be an important part of Diablo 4, it wasn't really explained too much, especially with what they have planned in the future. So before we talk about that, let's talk about how PvP works. First things first, you are going into regions on the map. They're not like arenas or anything, they're actual areas on the world map you can go to, starting with Act 2. In Act 1 there isn't any PvP. And those zones of hatred are your PvP area. You were entering them, you will probably get a warning like, hey, you have now 10 seconds to leave, or you will be marked for PvP. And then you are in an area which is still a PvE area, by the way. There are still mobs around. It's not just players who are trying to murder each other for resources. There's actually NPCs walking around, and they have things to do in those areas. So it's not just PvP you have to think about. But what you're doing then is you're basically farming PvE and, well, PvP players, or you are getting farmed by them, depending on how good you are. And you are dropping those red crystals. I think they're also called the crystals of hatred. I'm not quite sure what they are called. But you are farming this currency, and that currency itself can be dropped when you are dying in PvP. So what you have to do to keep them, you have to purify those crystals. I think you have to destroy them into dust. I think they're just calling it dust. And when you're going to a shrine in the PvP area and you start the process, other players will be informed that this is happening. So you basically just put a big target on your back, and people will come swarming in, probably try to stop you. Should you manage to survive, and should you gain the dust, nobody can take that from you anymore. Like, you are safe, and you can use now the resource to, or slash the currency, to actually buy items from a shop. And Blizzard talked about this in the past. There will be apparently some special items for PvP, and they also want to do a special PvP mount. Now, this is the important part. They said this a while ago, like I think nearly a year ago, that this is their plans. But the thing is, when we are looking at the newest footage they have been showing, nothing of that is shown. So we don't really know if that is still in the game or they removed it. We can't say, because as I said, Blizzard is showcasing PvP, but they are not really talking too much about it. Also, the items you can gain from PvP are also usable for PvE. Now, speaking of which, how does it work when you are going into a PvP zone? Like, is your equipment important? Is your level important? Like, how does this work? Well, the answer is yes. Your equipment will count. And that means if somebody has better equipment than you, then you would be in a pinch. The same goes probably later on with the level slash with the end game levels you can get, right? That is another like big performance boost in stats. And when somebody has more Paragon levels as you, then there might be an advantage. And I don't really know why Blizzard is doing this. Yes, there is a PvP stat in the game which will protect you from a lot of damage. What we have seen in the beta is that there is a PvP stat which will reduce the damage against you in PvP by 94%, which is quite a bit. But it doesn't really help too much with the balance, right? Let's say you are fighting against a player who does normally 1,000,000 damage. 94% of that damage is reduced, so you will survive. But you are somebody who doesn't really have the equipment for this, and you would normally only do 500,000 damage, and 94% of that damage is reduced. That player does still more damage than you do, and you are immediately in a disadvantage no matter how good your skills are. Of course, skills are important because, as we have seen, a lot of the abilities can be dodged in PvE as of in PvP. So it's a bit of like a, will this be enough? Will the skill cap be enough that items and Paragon levels will not save the day? And I'm expecting no, because we have seen something similar before, right? If you have ever played Lost Ark, there are two PvP mechanics in the game. There is the arena and there is the island PvP. And in the arena PvP, everything is balanced. Everything is equalized. Your equip doesn't matter. Everyone gets the same stats. Everyone gets the same skill trees. Well, and you can choose the skills on it, but the same amount of skill points to put into the skill trees. And so everyone is on the same level, and it all boils down to skill. Now, the island PvP, on the other hand, works exactly like it does in Diablo, right? Your equipment matters, your skill point matters, your level matters, and you will have an advantage. And unfortunately, it's no fun. It's no fun at all, because the people who have the better gear, who have the higher level, even though they are absolute idiots in what they are doing, will still kill you quickly. And I know what you might think at this point. Well, why would you even play PvP in an action RPG? Go play like Call of Duty or Battlefield or something like that. Are you kidding me? Action RPGs are really good for PvP. Actually, we have been playing, millions of people are actually playing kinda action RPGs on a daily basis, only for PvP. Only, well, they are not called action RPGs, they are called MOBAs, right? Think about it. League of Legends Dota, it's like an action RPG. You are controlling one character. The one character has 4 abilities. You are gaining items to get stronger. There are some PvE elements, and then you are fighting other players. And they're really close to what we are doing in the Fields of Hatred in Diablo 4. The problem is, this is all in a very controlled environment in MOBAs. Like, there is like, yeah, there are power spikes, but there are also some stopgaps in between, and at some point there is a ceiling where everyone has kind of reached the same power level, and it then just comes down to execution and how you play with your team and how well you are playing your character. But in action RPGs, the ceiling is, well, not endless, but very, very high before it stops, right? Equipment can give you such a huge advantage. One good roll on a unique somebody else doesn't have can make all the difference, which is something you don't have in a MOBA. So my problem is, and the point of all this video, is that I think the groundwork for PvP is already there in Diablo 4, but I think what we will miss is a lot of needed balance. And Blizzard has already talked a little bit about this recently, that yeah, PvP is important to them, but especially at the release, is not really their highest concern on their list. And when I'm hearing this, I'm going, oh no, what is that supposed to mean, right? So my assumption when it comes down to PvP in Diablo 4, especially at the beginning, it will be chaotic. It will be unfair, especially that you can meet groups when you are alone, right? Like the system is not putting you into an instance where only one players are running around. Like you can meet another group of 4 people who are playing together and would just decimate you, right? And that would be no fun whatsoever. So I think after the Diablo 4 release, at some point, we will see some major rebalance or maybe even rework of the PvP system down the road. If there are enough people who are really interested in the PvP and will make their voices heard, we might see that. But yeah, my assumption is if you are planning to go into PvP like I do, play it for fun. Because the amount of work you would have to put into the game to actually be kinda up there to compete with other people would be insane. And I would just play it for the lols and see what happens and how silly and chaotic it will be, right? That's what I'm planning to do. Because as I said, just the chance of having bad loot and not finding the items you need and then getting crushed for hours and hours in PvP, that doesn't look too much fun if you cannot make it like more interesting for you. But we will see what Blizzard has to offer in the end, because, well, the only people who has ever played the PvP were the people in the end game closed beta, which was in the NDA. And even though, yeah, some people told us what to expect, things have changed. Things have changed significantly probably at that point, so we will see. But I'm still looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to it to go like professional or something like that in the PvP. I just want to have my fun at the release, and I hope it's not unplayable. But if Blizzard is doing this right, even down the road, the PvP in Diablo 4 could be absolutely fun. Let me know down below in the comments, by the way, what you think about how the PvP in Diablo 4 will look like, and if you were actually planning to do any PvP, or if you're saying, nah, I'm here for the PvE alone. But with that said, please also don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe to the channel. We are doing like 1 Diablo video per week, plus the podcast once every 2 weeks / 1 week, depending on how much information is going around right now regarding Diablo. And then, of course, when the game is getting closer to release, there will be much more guides here on the channel, plus live streams and even more Diablo content. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, and I hope to see you next time.